which leads to story number 4. So, steeping yourself in more than $45,000 in high interest rate credit card debt with no plan to get out of it is not a gamble I would follow. It's not something I would do. Although it worked out for me. I'm not saying it would work out for everybody. That's the only thing I'm saying. So if you want to take out $45,000 in 20% interest rate credit card debt, totally fine by me. I wouldn't recommend it unless you have a plan to pay that debt back. I did not, which is why everything worked out the way that it did. So it eventually got so bad, and it didn't get helped because there was a thing. I remember I closed a $3.6 million deal at my work, but this is when I know, I found out that corporations are like casinos. The house always wins at this point because they'll find every way to enrich themselves and screw over their workers if they can do that. And I'm not a Marxist, by the way. That's just kind of how corporations operate. I'm a capitalist, but that's just how they operate. I've worked in one for one of the most quote unquote successful ones for a long time. That's how they operate. So I was expecting a really massive payout, but they said like, oh yeah, we'll give it to you a year later. I'm like, well, I might not be here a year later. Like, what are you talking about? And so I plowed myself into my work. I worked really hard, but I wasn't getting paid for it. And that credit card interest kept growing and growing and growing and growing. And it took up a bigger portion of my budget, bigger. And it was like eating at my finances. I had no savings. I had no investments outside of my 401k. I had no operations and stuff. Like I was again, scrimping by. I had no money. I was totally broke, completely broke. I could pay for the base necessities, my rent, my utilities, my food, but that was about it. Like I didn't go out to bars in Austin, Texas, of all places. I didn't go out. I didn't go out to eat, hardly. I went out maybe once a week. That was it. I bought wholesale club groceries. And it got worse because, again, interest accrued on the credit card debt, growing, took away more of my budget. And eventually, I remember it got so bad at one point where I was just so poor and I was so broke that I went to the wholesale club where I got groceries. And I remember, and I didn't really buy anything fancy. I bought like big packs of eggs and chicken and a bunch of other things, or like beef or whatever. Like I wasn't buying like, filet mignon. I was buying like 73%, pure ground beef and like thinking it's a meal, I guess. And so I go and I do these, I get up to the point where I'm putting this in my cart, whatever. And I remember I ring out at the wholesale club. There's, a lot of not doing well financially people around me, and they're paying for their groceries. And I remember I scan my card, and they're like, sorry, you don't have enough for this purchase. It wasn't really that much. It was like $80, I think it was. $80 of groceries. And I said, oh, I can't eat this week. And so I put that card back in. I swiped my debit card, declined. Swiped my other credit card, declined. Other credit card, declined. And I said, oh my God, I don't know what to do. And so I literally could not check out of a wholesale club to buy food. So I had to do and I've done several walks of shames in other ways, if you want to catch my drift there. But this walk of shame, man, this was really painful. So I had to take my groceries, my $80 groceries, wholesale club groceries of shit food that I had, and walk my path in reverse and put them back on the shelves. I had to put groceries back on the shelves. And I said, oh boy, like this is not good. This is not good. And I had to wait to next week. I didn't know what I was going to do. So I'm like, do I take it out on the credit card? Like, what do I do? And I remember I had $80. I had like $80 in my Venmo account. And so I sent it over to my friend, shout out to Allie Carey. I sent it over to Allie, and I said, hey, Allie, could you cash this out and give me cash for this? Because I knew if she transferred it over, it was just going to go right to the deficit. I had a negative checking account balance, a negative credit balance on like 5 different cards. And I said, I need cash for this. And she's like, why do you need cash? And I didn't tell her. I lied. And I said, like, I'm just fine. I just need it for something, whatever. So she gives me cash at work the next day. And I go in and I pay for my groceries. And then I have a, thing that hits next week in terms of my paycheck. And I am able to get through the rest of the month. But I mean, that story, it still makes me just so upset to this day. And why that was important is because it made me feel like less of a man. Because as a man, we're told rightly that we have to provide and we have to earn and we have to be self-sufficient when it comes to finances. And I wasn't. I was literally cashing out my Venmo account because my 5 credit cards that were all maxed out on 20% interest and my checking account, which is $1,500 in the red, I couldn't pay for everything. And at the time, my parents were asking me, like, hey, like, how's it going with this? How's it going with money? You need anything? Always said no. And I'm glad that I said no because I don't believe in, I remember I was talking to Abigail Schreier about this, the great author, and she said, like, are you self-sufficient? I said, what does that mean? She said, do you take money for your parents? I said, absolutely not. Take money from my parents. What are you talking about? She's like, well, a lot of people take money from their parents. I'm like, I sure as shit don't. Not me. Mm-mm. Mm-mm. And I told my parents that. My mom literally on the other, a couple months ago, I was in a spot and she said, like, Sam, let me send you money. I said, no, you're not going to send me money. I will never tell you. I think I literally told this to my mom. I said, I would rather chop my left arm off and sell it on eBay than take money from you. Like, no offense, like with all the respect in the world, I am not taking your money ever. I'm a man. I earn money. I get what I kill. I earn it. I work for it. I grind for it. So that experience of rewalking my grocery path in the wholesale club with bad food and putting it back on the shelves because I couldn't pay for it, that drove me. I said, I got to get out of here. I got to get out of this predicament first. I got to get what's mine inside this. And I later closed more than $7 million in sales revenue in my internal company in terms of that. And then I said, I cannot depend on anybody. Like, it drove my independence, my self-sufficiency even further. I cannot depend on corporate work to feed me and to feed my family. I got to get out of here. I got to get free. I got to get independent. And basically what that taught me and still informs me is that it made me grind really hard and made me work very hard and only do things to put yourself in a position to provide. Don't chase after dreams and don't work for other people. For me, not saying that for anybody else watching or anyone else listening to this. For me, I said I would never put in a position where I'm under the thumb of a credit card company. I'm under the thumb of a corporation. I'm under the thumb of some big shot wannabe tech executive person. I'm never going to do that again because this is where it's gotten me. Broke, under their thumb, and a lot of that was my doing and my responsibility. But they didn't help matters, and they encouraged that. Credit card companies, corporations, the government, they all encourage dependence. I said, not for me. I will become independent, self-sufficient. So if you're poor, if you're broke, like I was, consider that option. Only do things that put yourself in a position to provide. Do not depend on anybody else. Not your parents, not the government, not a corporation, not a job, not a promotion. You bet on yourself. Bet on you. Bet on the upswing of you. Because to me, I found that out the hard way with having to put groceries back on the shelves. That is the only way for many that you are able to get in that position. Do it yourself. Do it yourself. Only do things that put yourself in a position to provide.